We live in a world in which the information technology revolution, the biotechnology revolution, and the increasing globalization of the economy will force us to find ways to meet our challenges and seize opportunities together.
The internet was one of those technologies that really came up flower during the Clinton-Gore years.
The explosion of information has changed everyone's life, nowhere more than on the internet.
Information is power. People seated at home have access through the internet to an enormous amount of information that was never in their hands before. But I think one thing that worried the president about the information age was that it was moving rapidly, and unless carefully orchestrated, it could serve as a wedge between haves and have-nots.
We have to make sure that all the schools in the country can afford to connect to the internet. Under the new telecommunications law, the Federal Communications Commission will require the telecommunications service providers to give affordable rates for internet access, what we call an E-rate, an education rate.
In spreading the use of the internet in the education community, they had taken up the cause of something called Net Day. The idea was to have parents and technologists go out and wire all the schools, and so their objective was to get all the schools in the country up on the internet by the year 2000.
For the first time in our history, children in the most isolated rural towns, the most comfortable suburbs, the poorest inner-city schools will have the same access to the same universe of knowledge.
The president also wanted to use the best of our science and technology for social goals, and among them was health. He was very concerned about emerging infectious diseases. HIV/AIDS was spreading like wildfire across all nations, across all cultures.
Since I took office, funding for AIDS research at the National Institutes of Health has increased dramatically to $1.5 billion. With new resources, NIH will now become the most powerful discovery engine for an AIDS vaccine, working with other scientists to finally end the threat of AIDS.
I think throughout the 1980s and the early part of the 1990s, it could be said that the U.S. government's commitment was inadequate for HIV/AIDS. And certainly with Clinton's arrival in the White House, the commitment to this epidemic increased rather dramatically. I think his commitment to AIDS is part of the manifestation of his commitment to biomedical research in general.
And he saw certain activities, like the Genome Project, as the fundamental basic investment in knowledge that would surely deliver some very important things for our future generations.
Today, the world is joining us to celebrate the completion of the first survey of the entire human genome. Without a doubt, this is the most important, most wondrous map ever produced by humankind.
And it was important because the successful mapping and sequencing is key to a whole new understanding of how biology works and therefore how you can cure disease.
Rarely have Americans lived through so much change in so many ways in so short a time. Quietly, but with gathering force, the ground has shifted beneath our feet. As we have moved into an information age, a global economy, a truly new world.
There you go.